Hello and welcome to Law and Order SVU here on FANVERSATION, the only Law and Order SVU video podcast, the longest running Law and Order SVU after show, the only place to find, I keep finding new titles for us, the places to find me and Taylor Gates. Hello, Taylor.
Hello.
Hello, I'm so excited. Felicia Michelle couldn't be here with us today. What a bummer, but we're still going to talk about season 13, episode 1, Scorched Earth. Fun fact.
That was good. That's the best I've ever done, those hand motions like that.
You really kept up, which was amazing because I kept forgetting what words were about to come out of my mouth. So I was real choppy, but you got it.
I practiced in the mirror. Yeah.
I love it. For anyone who's listening on audio, not knowing what we're talking about, Taylor holds up her fingers when I talk.
I sure do. Just to give you that visual aid.
I love it. Amazing. Welcome, everybody. Zach is already here and chatting live in the chat. I'm very excited to be talking about this episode. I forgot how good this episode was, but we'll get to that in just a second. First, as a reminder, if you are in a situation where you need help, please reach out to RAINN. Their number is 1-800-656-4673. 1-800-656-4673. Taylor, what does that spell?
It spells hope.
It does spell hope. That's what RAINN does. They give you hope. So give them a call if you need it. Also, I can feel it mulling in my brain that I'm going to say something offensive. So consider this your content warning. Sometimes this show goes dark, and when that happens, we make light. And it's not always funny, but it is always bad.
It's always a thing that happens on this show.
It's always terrible thoughts that come out of my mouth.
We love it. We love that you bring that energy. You know, we need it. We need it in this mixture.
Thank you. I'm so excited. And as a reminder, we are sticking around this summer, and we're going to tell you just what that means at the end of the show. So stick around for that. But let's talk about season 13, episode 1, Scorched Earth. Fun fact, the word scorched doesn't have a T in it.
Did I put a T in it? I put a T in it. Oh, because I was like, I hope autocorrect catch that, because like thinking about how to spell that, if this is a spelling bee right now and you asked me that, I would have failed it because I would have thought there was a T.
I typed it multiple times with a T. There is no Scorched Earth. All right, here is the quick cap for season 13, episode 1. An African immigrant working as a maid accuses an Italian diplomat of rape, but is she really in it just for the money? Meanwhile, Stabler's return remains in doubt after his latest shooting. That is the quick cap. I think it is a pretty accurate quick cap, although I would say that meanwhile, Stabler's return is misleading.
Yeah, there ain't no gray area about it. It's simply not happening until 10 years later.
Right. And we will 100% be discussing that in this episode. But let's start with our main case. Let's start with Miriam, our maid, and Destasio, the Italian diplomat. I have to give a shout out to Annika Nani Rose, who is a Tony Award winner, who played Miriam. Amazing performance in this episode. Good in it. Yeah. What did you think of this episode?
I really liked this episode. I think this was such an interesting way, because this is, I believe, Warren Light's first episode. Is that correct? Like, since he took over season 13.
I'm pretty sure.
And I think that he did such a good job in the whole writer's room and the performance as well. I think just all in all, it was successful in like giving us a new, fresh, like voice. It was obviously very like, it was a pivot because you want to put your own stamp on it, you know, when someone new comes in. And we had that with Amanda, of course. I think this is a really strong case to start off with. And we did have that continuity that we obviously need to the gaping hole, not to have Elliot there anymore. And so I think it was just such a good season premiere and a good shift. I think all of season 13 was actually really good for that, just leading us into a new kind of era, but also keeping the stories that like we want to see and need to see at the heart of it too.
I think you make some really great points. I did a quick search. Yes, Warren Light is an EP on this episode, but it was written by David Matthews. Okay. Not to be mistaken with Dave Matthews.
A little different.
A little different. David Matthews wrote quite a few episodes of SVU. Also, I'm looking. Oh, he wrote Lost Traveler, which is a one that we absolutely love.
We do love that one.
And he was involved in the writing of Street Revenge, which is a great episode, and Hunting Ground, which is one of my favorites.
Oh, Hunting Ground is like one of the scariest episodes I've ever seen, I feel like.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that too when we talk about our poll, I think.
Yeah, so this episode really does start off a new era, and I've always loved the Destasio Miriam storyline is one of my favorite cases because I feel like it's so interesting. But also I always forget that this is also the episode with the this is officially Stabler leaves at the end of this episode, even though he's not in it at all.
Yeah.
It's really a great episode. And this case is so interesting because we do believe that she was attacked, right? She was assaulted. And we've had lots of imperfect witnesses, and what does Cragen always say? You don't get to pick the Vic. So
yeah,
I think that's an interesting episode.
And I'm so glad that we had Cabot back to kind of be the person who's like, you guys are messed up. Like, I obviously believe this woman has seen a million stories like hers in the Congo, which we'll talk about too, since that was kind of where we left her last time. And it's frustrating, I think, but understandable that Olivia's like, well, she lied about this, she lied about that. Because I think that she's questioning her judgment on everything now because her personal life is like trickling into it. Where Elliot's left and she's just like kind of, doesn't have anything like tying her down in a way. Like she just kind of feels lost, I think. And so I always think that when she has that conversation with Finn, where Finn's like, what is wrong with you? Like, why do you not believe this victim? I always think that she's going to say, like, I don't know what to believe anymore, because I feel like that's her exact mindset in this episode.
Yeah, it's so interesting you bring that up because as you may have seen on our show, anytime Olivia does something out of character or doesn't believe a victim, I know that I, as a viewer and as the after show, go, that's not, how dare she? So the moment that she doesn't believe Miriam and Alex goes, Olivia, I was like, thank you for asking, because what is happening? And I love the way that it makes sense. It is one of the times where Olivia being unsure of the victim makes sense because she doesn't know what to do. She doesn't trust herself, but also, this is an interesting case. She says, I do believe that this happened to her there, but she's lied. She's lied so much that it's hard to know. Yeah,
I agree. It's very interesting. And I feel like it's because sometimes we have those like gray area. He said like, oh, it's like messier. I don't think there's ever been any doubt in my mind, and probably the majority of viewers' minds, that this did happen. Like, because she's so, you just have to feel for her. Like, never once do I not believe her story. It's just that she's had such a rough go of it that like she's literally just saying and doing what she needs to survive day to day.
Mm-hmm. It reminds me of Porn Stars Requiem, where like we know that it happened, but because of who she is, we don't believe her, or the people don't believe her. And so we get quite a few cases like this. Over the 22 seasons.
Yeah.
And this one's just so it's a really good story. And it makes me wonder, because I know that we, in the future, in season 22, have been questioning whether, like, we've had episodes where we felt that the story itself for the, like, case wasn't strong or wasn't fleshed out enough. And if all of the, like, other stuff that happens in the episode wasn't there, would we still enjoy that? And I think that this is a case that I would still be like, this is a good case. This is interesting. The discussions are good. Even if we didn't have, the introduction of Rollins or Cabot coming back or all of the stuff going on with Stabler.
Which I think makes this episode more impressive is the fact they managed to juggle those 3 strings, like those 3 main strands, and do it so well. Like, it's a kind of a masterclass in like having an ABC story where you're like threading them so well.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't have much to say about the actual case. I do have some like favorite lines, which of course we will get to. So let's talk about Alex in this episode, because I forgot, it's been a while since I've watched any of the episodes in order. So Alex, the last time we saw her, it was the case where the neighbor assaults that girl who's very obnoxious, and then she dies from a staph infection.
That's a great episode, though.
It's such a good episode. And then we meet the neighbor who sees rape everywhere because of where she's from, which is fascinating. And honestly, I almost thought it was going to be said again in this episode. I see rape everywhere, and I was like, wait, this isn't that episode. Wrong episode.
I think there's a lot of like similar themes that we have going though between those two, and that's why I think it was really smart that Alex was at like the center of this one, because it's exactly what she knows and what she's been dealing with for the past couple of years.
Yeah, so it was nice to have her back, and I don't recall how long she stays.
I don't either. She pops in and out way more than I realized. I'm like, oh yeah, she was our early like lawyer, but then she comes back several times, which like I'm not mad about. Like, bring her back as much as you want. But
so I don't recall her boss, who was in this episode. I don't recall seeing him again.
No, is that Mike Cutter, or is that
Mike Cutter?
Yeah,
Bureau Chief ADA Mike Cutter. I'm looking up how many episodes he is in.
Isn't he in a couple more this season?
I'm looking it up right now.
Okay, because I feel like I remember him a few more. Maybe not.
Because I didn't remember. I was like, wait a second. Because I feel like, and this is weird, but I feel like until Dodds, I don't think I ever paid attention to superiors on the show.
I still this is like bad to say, but I still don't quite understand how the hierarchy of that works. Like, I don't know what the job title's like, where they go. Like,
yeah, you're right. He does return 3 more times. We see him in True Believers, Lost Traveler, and Father's Shadow.
It's because I must recognize his face, because those episodes are ones that I rewatch all the time. Like, those are some of my favorite episodes.
Zach, thank you in the chat, says Cutter has been in at least 4 episodes. Yeah.
Yeah, some of the best episodes of the season.
Some of your favorites.
Yeah,
also, it was cute to see Judge Barth, because we know where her story goes.
Yeah, we sure do.
This episode's so great. Let's talk about the introduction of Rollins.
Yes.
Because this is, I think, one of the best additions to the show. Like, how they did it was really smooth. She comes in, she's eager. She does her Southern charm thing. We see her do, we begin her weird one-on-one perp chat. This is where it's birthed. Did we lose you, Taylor? Oh, I think we lost Taylor. That's okay. I'll keep talking until she comes back. So I love this edition of Rollins, and the way that she joins us is so fun. Like I said, she comes in, she's eager, she does her Southern charm thing, and then she's ready to play. She's ready to have a good time and investigate, and shows us that she does her research. We have that amazing moment where she's super excited to work with Benson, which is really fun, because I was recently rewatching an episode with what was his name? Adam Baldwin, where he's telling Olivia to train Rollins, and she's like, she knows what she's doing. She doesn't need that.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. That was so upsetting because it's like my favorite part of the episode and it just kicked me off.
That's fine. I just shared all of my thoughts. What did you think about Rollins' intro?
I loved it. I think it was so cute how she was like, I've studied your cases. I thought that was so cute. And she like is craving her approval so bad. And I love how Olivia just doesn't have the bandwidth to give her the time of day at the beginning. I think it's like pretty funny. But when she's like, good work, Rollins, and then Rollins like smiles, I think it's really cute. I just like love that like mentorship sort of role they have going at the beginning there.
Yeah.
And I love that she has a heavier accent than she ever has again. Like, yep.
She just got there.
She just got there. And I love how we have her take initiative and go talk to our Italian man and bring him Italian food, because I think that sets her character up so well. And I forgot that even happened in her first episode, but then I'm like, every episode, like we just saw this in the episode where a postgraduate psychopath, I feel like she's like, she likes to get inside these guys' minds. She knows how to use her like feminine charm to like trap them and get them to do what she wants. So I think this was such a smart character introduction. She didn't go too, off the rails crazy. We saved that for a little bit later, but it gives us a taste of kind of how she operates, which I really
absolutely
appreciate. Yeah. And I forgot how strong her and Finn's bond was at the beginning. Of her getting there. I feel like her and Finn were a lot, like we saw them be a lot tighter than they are now, which just happens. But I love how Finn's like, yeah, I like her. I just think their relationship is really cute too.
I agree. Honestly, the like, I'm calling them the perp chats that she does. Like, yeah. I didn't realize that they really introduced that at the beginning. They were like, this is a thing she does.
Yeah, which I like it. It's always good to go back and watch, because it's like, when you don't see it for a little while, it's like, okay, this is crazy. Like, this is a little out of character. But it's like, it's really not. She's been doing this since literally day one.
I totally agree. And I think that one of the things I really love is the quick moment where she says, you interviewed me last week. So, like, it's not a replacement of Stabler. Mm-hmm. This is like she was going to be added to the team regardless of what happened to Stabler, which I liked.
Yeah. I also think it's really smart that they didn't add her and Nick at the exact same time. I always forget that. I always think they were there the same amount. But I think that would have been way too much to work with. I'm glad that we have her established and then we can introduce someone after she's been there for a minute.
I agree. I just don't think I realized that she came first.
I know. I never do either until I like dig into it. I'm like, oh yeah, Nick was not there quite like almost as long as her, but not quite as long as her.
Mm-hmm. I mean, now nowhere near as long.
Yeah, he dropped off.
Yeah. So, welcome, Rollins. Yeah. I guarantee we like you.
I do like her a lot, actually.
Yeah, to see the story from where it was to where it is now. Ooh.
And it's just so funny. She looks amazing still, but she has that little baby face in this episode. I'm like, oh, she's an actual like child. Like she's so cute.
It's been 10 years.
I know, which it doesn't feel like it has. Like season 13 doesn't feel like that long ago, but it's been almost a decade, which is nuts.
Yeah. Let's discuss the Stabler of it all. So I always think Stabler was there for 13, like he was there till season 13, because season 13 is when his character leaves. But Chris Maloney was only there till the end of season 12 and does not return till season 22. So yes, this is the first episode without him. I realized on a show like this, we don't, unless you're an after show who's paying attention, I feel like the first 12 seasons of me watching this, I barely picked up on any like personal life storylines that were felt through lines. I did not pay attention to through lines. So this season starting with an explanation as to where this character is and what happened is kind of different, especially for a show like this that is supposed to be pick an episode, watch it, no context needed.
Right.
So I really appreciate this. And when you listen to what is actually happening, right? Cragen points out that, like, although it was a good shooting, this is not the first.
It is number 6, my friends.
Right. IAB is definitely investigating. And I think that information makes me think about, in season 22, Finn being like, you have to tell him about Tucker. Because at this moment, Tucker is going after this man's job.
Right, exactly. I think they did a really, they must have watched this episode before they wrote his return, because it resonates, like, especially the part where Finn's like, no, I haven't talked to him. He probably hasn't talked to you because he's afraid you're going to convince him not to quit. And that's exactly what ends up revealing that that's exactly right, which I love that. I love being able to watch back and be like, oh, like, they clearly knew what was said and made sure that was the case, so it didn't feel disjointed.
Also, Liv leaves him a voicemail, which became a huge weird theme.
Yeah.
In season 22.
Yeah. No letter, though.
No letter. But, you know, so IAB's investigating the shooting. And as Cragen says, SVU is now under scrutiny, which, when is it not? When is IAB not trying to destroy them for some reason?
Honestly, rightfully sometimes. It's like, let's be honest, but...
Look, if IAB was better at its job, maybe we wouldn't be in 2021 right now.
That's a good point. We all bear responsibility.
Some more than others.
Some more than others, but still.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm saying it. It's 2021. I'm saying it. This show has conditioned us to think that IAB is the bad guy, that the cops who investigate police action are the bad guys. They've taught us that they're the bad guy.
Yeah. That's not right. I noticed that like maybe a few years ago or something. I was like, I think I read a tweet about it. I was like, wow, you're absolutely right. That's really messed up. Like, that's not okay.
That's some... Look, we say this show's propaganda, but like, that's propaganda shit right there.
That's a major in-your-face propaganda. They're not hiding it at that point.
Oh my God. Well.
Okay. We're not past that, but that's not quite... I don't think that would be written now. Like maybe not that part. I guess I'm talking more of like, Ellie would have to do a bunch of training and jump through a bunch of hoops to say, well, he's not going to do that. He thinks that's
right.
That's honestly, probably good. He probably does need a psych evaluation.
He does need anger management. He is we've talked about it.
Yeah, we need to position that, because it's written in a way where it's like, he don't need that. Like, he does need that.
Right.
Very much, very badly.
So it's interesting because the way that it's said, right? Benson is like, he would rather give up his gun than do sensitivity training or whatever. This is his 6th shoot. How many? He's shot a bunch of people, is what we're saying.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Maybe let's just look at that objective fact for a minute here.
This show has messed with my mind.
Yeah. Oof. Didn't age well.
He killed a child.
Yeah. That was such a wild, not to go back to season 12, but what an episode that was too.
Yeah. Sorry, everybody. We just went on. I'm having some.
We just had a moment.
We're having moments.
It was a year of realizing things.
Yeah. Anyway, he's not coming back. My question is, it's interesting that you point out that it feels like the writers went back and watched this before writing his return. And honestly, I had written in my notes, do you think Chris watched this episode?
No. I'm gonna be transparent with you. I don't think he did at all.
I mean, I agree, but I wish he would, to see like that his character was mourned, that his character was missed, that like they wrote him out, I think, in a really beautiful way.
I agree. It's funny because I think back when this first aired, because I was watching live at that point. Yes, I was old enough to do that at that point.
I'm proud of you.
And I was like hardcore in the Twitter fandom back then. And people were like, oh my gosh, like they should at least text, like off screen they could talk, blah, blah, blah. But now that he's returned, I'm kind of glad they didn't, because like, what a crazy, I don't know, just like way to bring him back. And like the fact that they hadn't talked about, like, it'd be a much different story if they were like, oh yeah, we texted when he was in Italy. Like I knew all this information. Like there'd be no angst to that. There'd be no, like, there'd be a little bit of hype, but not as much hype as like there was for what we saw. So it's kind of like, back then I was like so mad about it, but like, wow, what an interesting story that it didn't work out like that, you know?
Yeah, honestly, through the years I've said, and I stand by it, that I don't believe that they wouldn't have spoken that long. I think that he would have received at least a text when she got Noah. Like, I have a son. Something like that. That said, I do like the story and what they've chosen to do with it, but I do think that they could have lost touch over the years. I would believe that. I would believe that they did start, like, you know, he's not responding to her in season 13, episode 1, but maybe by the end of season 13, she's heard from him.
Yeah.
And then they lost touch.
That doesn't have the angst potential.
It does have angst potential, because they could lose touch and then still be like, well, at that point, time has passed, you know?
Right. But like with what they're writing now, like I don't think that that's realistic to have happened if they would have like still written it the way they've written it, where it's like they're like cosmically connected and all of that. Because I feel like that's what they're like kind of writing now.
Anyway.
Well, that's me like watching it, and I feel like that's not far off. That's not far off, but they're telling me at least.
All right, let's get into some of our favorite lines. That's the best line song. I have one that has stuck with me literally through years. This line is stuck with me. It was when she said that she spit it out, and he said, that's the difference between like and love. That has stuck with me for years. I think about that oddly quite a bit. But also when she says, I spit it out, it tastes like poison. Because that's such an interesting way to write it. Those are my lines. Oddly, both my lines about the same thing. Go on.
I love that for you. I just like Fit is always just so great with the line, you're under arrest, capiche? Incredible. The gross Italian guy, on the word of a maid. My grandmother was a maid. It's like, you tell him, Finn. Like, that's right. I loved that. I loved the fact that they said he's the Geppetto, he's the one who pulls the strings, because like, yeah, let's just like hammer home that he's Italian. Like, let's just really make that abundantly clear. And then we have Warner, who I love. So glad we got her. DNA is like God, it's everywhere. Just swooping in the butt. That's such a poetic line.
Great lines, amazing. This episode was very Italian.
He was aggressively Italian.
Is this the first time he hasn't been born yet? Is this the first time that we heard Olivia speaking Italian?
No. Well, maybe. I know she's spoken other languages.
Yes, she's spoken Spanish for sure. But my question also is this: did this spark the idea?
I was just gonna ask.
Right? Because if you're right that they went back and watched this episode, I'm gonna very much assume that this episode inspired a lot of where we ended up.
Literally, I was like thinking about that. I was like, that's a little sus. Like, that's very interesting that there's so much Italian connection in this. And then when he returns, I love that. I don't know what it would mean, because like it's not like it really, bridged anything, but even if it's just a fun little Easter egg, I love that too.
Yeah. I'm gonna be real honest and say that I didn't check if this was ripped from a headline, so I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay, we love that
because maybe it was, and we're gonna talk about
maybe
that if it was. 1 second, season 13. Ooh, this is inspired by the people of the state of New York versus Strauss-Kahn. Yeah. So this is a criminal case relating to the allegations of sexual assault and attempted rape, but made by a hotel maid against a man named Strauss-Kahn. It's a hyphenated last name. At a hotel in New York in 2011. Oh, it was May, so that does make sense. Yeah, wow.
Okay.
So, yep, it is inspired by a real case. You can read more about that on the internet.
Will do.
Yep, Zach says I'm correct. Yes, it is ripped for a headline. Good thing I looked it up, everybody. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Usually I come more prepared, but today I have other stuff on my mind. So, all right, Taylor, tell us about our weekly poll.
Absolutely. So last week we discussed the season finale, and we wanted to ask you what was your favorite part of Finn and Phoebe's not wedding. And no one voted for none of these options, and no one put an other in the comments. So
but I did list a bunch of other things you could have said.
No one said them though, sorry.
But I let them know what they could have said.
You did do your due diligence there.
Thank you.
In third place, we have Finn and Phoebe being happy with 20.5% of the votes. That's a little bit disrespectful considering it's their event, but that's fine. This was interesting to me. In second place, we had Elliot and Olivia's toast to partners with 36.4% of the votes. The Releasey stands dominated this poll because the Releasey Kiss got 43.2% of the votes, meaning they were the winner of last week's poll.
I believe it.
I love that. This week, I asked you guys what your favorite new addition to the season 13 cast was, because we had a lot of great new people come in this season. We, of course, have Amanda Rollins and Nick Amara, which we talked about. And then we had a couple more minor characters. We have David Hayden, who you'll remember was, oh, you're not a David Hayden fan. Interesting. That was Olivia's little boyfriend for a while.
Harry Connick Jr., right?
Harry Connick Jr., yes.
He just disappeared at some point.
Just disappeared. I am very biased because I love him in Hope Floats with Sandra Bullock. So I was like, yeah, he's a dreamboat. Like, I love him. So that's why I liked him. But as his character, I really couldn't name one thing about him. I don't really remember. But
he was a DA.
He was a DA. Yes, I mean I remember that, but I was beyond that. He was a DA. And then, interestingly enough, we also have Bayard Ellis, which I understand why because he's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, right? He's like one of the main people in that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be super interesting to bring him back, especially now with the subject matter we're tackling, because he is in one of my favorite, most impactful episodes, I think, which is True Believers. And that was a big episode that sort of touched on like police brutality and like anti-bias and how bias plays a role in that in regards to race. So I think it'd be super interesting if we brought him back again, because he and Olivia also had a very interesting like sort of dynamic too. Yeah. And so I think just in general, I think he's a great character we could see again, but I think it'd be really relevant to bring him back with what we're trying to talk about like now with all of those like cases.
Yeah, I agree. Bayard Ellis was an amazing character, and the tie-ins with everything was so good, especially how he came back with her brother, and so I loved that. Hayden was like such a disappointment, like such a waste. It feels like
a rebound, kind of
like they gave us him, and then they ran like. He used up his episodes and they were like, oh, we need you to come back. And he's like, no, I'm okay. That's what it feels like as a viewer.
And they like got donuts once or something. Like that was cute. I remember.
Yes, I liked. I mean, their dates were romantic, but it didn't go anywhere, do anything.
Yeah, it didn't. But he was in Hunting Ground too,
yes.
Which that episode scares me.
I love that episode so much.
It's so terrifying.
Yeah, Zach says now that Brooklyn Nine-Nine is over, I'd love to see him back. I agree.
Yeah, he'd be great. I wonder what he's doing now.
He's probably working. He works a lot.
No. I mean the character.
Oh, the
sorry,
character.
Not him. No, I know he's a very busy guy. I don't know if his character would still be, an attorney, or if he would have moved up or does something else.
That right at the end, he was working like the Innocence Project. He was like helping people. So he's in the episode with what's his name, Mike Tyson.
Yes, that was a very controversial episode.
Yeah, that episode. All right. Anyway,
I watched it once. Let's just put it that way.
You should watch it again. You should watch it again. The weekly poll, we'll tell you where to find that in just a second. We have some announcements before we wrap things up. Oh, before that, what did we learn? Oh, crap. What did we learn? Shoot. Taylor, what did you learn?
Oh, okay. Why don't we just do that?
I have to think. You have to go.
Well, I learned when I watched it the first time that Elliot put his papers in. So I guess that's what I learned when I initially watched it. What did I learn this time?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know what I learned this time.
Okay, I got it.
Okay, please.
Thanks for taking up some time.
Of course.
I learned that Rollins was doing her one-on-one perp chats from the beginning.
Yes, that's a very good point too.
Yeah.
And that honestly, Alex deserves so much more of our respect. Like she is, I feel like, no, I know. I love her, but like Casey's my girl, you know that. But like Alex, I always think of her as kind of just like soft spoken, but she has all these badass moments, and I need to go back and like acquaint myself with those more.
I just learned that Taylor doesn't give Alex the credit she's due.
It's true. I don't. I always just think of her as like kind of, laid back, which is true. I mean, Casey's the one who will just yell at people blatantly, but she has her soft, badass moments.
Zach was reminded of how awesome Rollins was in her first episode.
That's true.
That is true.
She was an icon from the start.
From the beginning. And her accent was real thick.
Real thick. I love how Olivia thought she was from Dallas. Actually, Atlanta, but
same thing. Same thing.
Not at all, but that's why it was so funny.
I'm with Benson on this. Sure.
The South.
The South. Oh, that's a Southern accent.
Cool.
It actually makes me think of what was that guy at the end of Stone season, the one who like was awful. Who
I'm gonna be more specific than that, because
the one who like there's like the overarching bad guy with the beard. He played Bosch.
I couldn't even begin to tell you. I do not rewatch Stone season.
Anyway, where he first meets them and he's like, oh, is that this accent from like the town that she's from? And later she's like, there is no specific that he looked us up.
Oh, yeah.
So that's Rob Miller.
Yes.
Thank you, Zach.
Like just coming and swooping in and saving us today.
Zach is, we couldn't have done it without you. Thank you. Which is weird because I went to high school with a guy with that name who was awful, so I should have remembered. Anyway, when she said that about the accent, I thought of that episode and I was like, specific.
Yikes.
Anyway, okay, now the announcements. First and foremost, thank you so much to everybody who's been watching us all season long. As you know, Law and Order SVU does not go on summer break. That said, we do skip weeks when we're busy. So first of all, we will not be back for 3 weeks. So we will return July 11th and continue doing this. But we did do a little contest asking people to rate and review us on iTunes and leave comments on our YouTube videos. So we have picked a winner who will decide what episode we're going to discuss on July 11th. Taylor, who won?
I drew from a random name generator, so there was no bias involved.
And I had nothing to do with it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yell at me if you're unhappy.
No, I just mean so that there's no bias. I had no say in this.
No bias. Kay Hirsch, you were the winner of our contest. So thank you so much you left several comments, which we very much appreciate. So drop what episode you want us to do in the YouTube comment of this video. Or tweet us or whatever. But just make sure that we get the name of the episode that we haven't done before, please. Make sure we have not covered it yet.
Yes, one that we haven't done here or on previous channels.
Yes. Anything? What season did we start doing?
We started season 16.
Okay, so anything before that might be, but probably hasn't been.
Right. Likely there is available. Season 16 is when we started at the other channel. Yes, so that's, you'll let us know and we'll tell you what episode we're going to do July 11th. We'll announce that over on the socials as well. And for those who somehow missed it, you can buy some SVU merch, including a Slammin' Pair of Jeans onesie or Justice for Snowball merch. And I know somebody got a Justice for Snowball sticker, which is amazing.
To take a photo and tweet it to me. I'm begging you.
Yes. Also, I'm so excited to see how it comes out because I designed it very poorly, but don't know what it's going to look like when it prints.
It's going to be beautiful. And the sentiment is what matters most.
Yes. Justice for Snowball. I'm so excited that we have merch and we will continue to make merch as long as there's fun stuff to think about and say.
And there's just limitless amounts of fun stuff for this show.
Yeah. Let's take suggestions.
Yes.
Is that our next contest?
Yeah. Oh, yes. I like that.
All right. Decision made. Next contest.
I like that.
To pick what pick what merch we're gonna make. Suggest, and if we like it, we'll make it. Is that a contest? Is that how contests work?
It is now. It's a very easy contest to win.
Yeah.
You have to appeal to us.
Right. We've got to get the joke.
It's just us.
Just us. I mean, that's literally how this happened.
Yeah.
Amazing. All right. Those are the announcements. Again, we'll be back July 11th, Sunday at our regular time. Until then, Felicia is available on the Instagram at It's Felicia Michelle. Send her some love. But also, Taylor, where are you and where can everyone keep up with the poll?
You can find me on the poll on Twitter at alphabet_, and you can also find me on Instagram at Taylor_Gates_.
Amazing. I'm everywhere at Yael Tygiel. That's YAELTYGIEL. Keep up with me on Twitter and Instagram, and I will be back on Twitch tomorrow. Poorly playing Zelda. Yep, that's what we're gonna do. So come make fun of me. It'll be great. All right. Also there are more interviews. There are interviews coming out sometime in the next few weeks on this channel for a show called Leverage Redemption. So keep an eye out, people, on this channel. Make sure you've subscribed.
Yes, absolutely.
I think that's all I got to announce.
Great.
All right. Have a wonderful week, everybody. We'll see you July 11th. Bye.